Hey, everybody, welcome back to the You're Not Broken podcast. I have an amazing guest today, James Swanwick, and we are going to talk about alcohol. Thank God, we need to talk about this. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Kelly. Great to be here.
So I just saw on your Instagram that you have not had been drinking for 15 years.
Correct. Alcohol-free for 15 years. And I do say alcohol-free, not sober. And we can
Tell me
talk
about
about
that.
that. Why.
Yeah, tell me about that.
Well, I just think that the words sober, sobriety, recovery, 12 steps, clean, all this kind of stuff.
Quitting?
Yeah, quitting is lamenting the past. And there's a lot of neuroscience now that shows that when we tell ourselves what not to do, the mind doesn't understand that. It ends up doing the very thing we're telling it not to do. So instead, I like something that feels empowering and a choice. So I choose an alcohol-free lifestyle. I choose a style of life as opposed to saying no to alcohol, being sober, sobriety. The terms sober and sobriety, I think, have a lot of negative connotation, and it prevents people who might be gray area drinkers from ever stopping, because they may mistakenly believe that if they stop, then people will think that they have a drinking problem or that they're an alcoholic or that they need to be sober. Whereas what I am fostering is, guys, let's choose a beautiful alcohol-free lifestyle because we want clarity, focus, energy, great sleep, great conscious communication with our husbands and wives and our children. And let's just love life, not consuming this attractively packaged poison that we call alcohol.
Yeah, which is legal on every street corner. Somebody said to me, like, depending upon when you started drinking, you were alcohol free for like 18 years, right? And like, as far as like, we actually had to start consuming it. And we spent our whole developing years not drinking the damn stuff.
Yeah. And cultural conditioning has us normalize this poison. And make no mistake, it's attractively packaged poison. That's all it is. It's a bunch of toxins that we put in a very attractive bottle and we associate it with good times and fun because everyone's smiling as they consume it. But make no mistake, it's poison and it's compromising our life. And this conditioning started when we were little boys and girls, Kelly. You may have had parents or adult figures in your life who said, "Oh, no, little Kelly, you can't drink. You can drink when you're older." And in that moment, that adult figure implanted in our child minds, so drinking alcohol is something that adults do. That's something that I get to do when I'm older. That's like a rite of passage, understood. And then, of course, we start drinking in our teens, and then we've got friends who are smiling and getting drunk and celebrating the fact that we're getting drunk. And then we get in the workplace, and of course, people are smiling as they say, "Hey, let's go for some after work drinks." And then we go to a party, and the host is trying to be very nice, and they're saying, "Can I get you a drink? Can I get you a drink?" And, "Hey, let's catch up for drinks." And we're all smiling. So it's no wonder that we associate drinking with fun and pleasure and not drinking with pain and deprivation. But I am here to try and dehypnotize you regarding alcohol and its place in your life.
I love that. So I'm a physician in the medical training. You don't need to go nowhere in the medical training do they say, and don't drink alcohol. It's always in moderation, always. And in my reading, it's the alcohol companies that have kind of branded the in moderation to brand it that's okay. But I'm like, in the physician world, you don't need to stop unless you have a problem. And, it's the CAGE criteria, which is like drinking in the morning for an eye opener. Like, it's a high thing to say you have a problem. And it's a whole different way to think about it the way you're thinking about it is like, and especially the more and more data that's coming out, because people will be like, yeah, but is a little bit okay? Is a little bit okay? I think that's really where the conversation is now of like, is a little bit okay? And how would you deal with that question?
There was a study that came out in 2022 of 35,000 middle-aged adults. And what the study showed was that even one seemingly innocent drink per day, just 7 standard drinks per week, was enough to cause some level of brain degeneration, more specifically the destruction of gray and white matter in our brains.
Yep.
Now, that should be a frightening prospect for anyone. Just one seemingly innocent drink is enough to cause consequences. Now, anecdotally, the way that one drink per night shows up is compromised sleep, because we're actually better off drinking alcohol for breakfast than we are anywhere close to bedtime, because at least then the body's got 16 hours to get rid of the toxins out of the body, which would then enable you to sleep the way nature intended you to sleep. However, most people are drinking at nighttime, close to bedtime, and they're essentially clocking the body in for entire night's work. Because make no mistake, when we drink these toxins, the body now has to go to work to get rid of the toxins.
Mhm.
And at nighttime, when we're sleeping, we don't want the body working. We want the body resting.
Healing.
Yeah. And how that shows up is we wake up in the morning just a little bit irritable, just a little bit tired, and we just snap at our husband or our wife, or the kids get on our nerves. And so we're not as present with them and we snap at them. Or we're a little bit tired, so we're late for work, or we don't make that additional call, or we're not as effective in our career, or we're not as present, we're not as pleasant to be around. We get frustrated when we're in a line in the grocery store because the person in front of us is taking too long to put through their groceries. We get annoyed at the person who cuts us off in traffic. Like we've just got this heightened sense of stress and anxiety and frustration because we had that seemingly innocent drink the night before. And pretty soon we start drinking alcohol to relieve ourselves of the very symptoms that drinking alcohol is creating.
Yeah. I mean, in America, the stats are 25% of midlife women are on an antidepressant. And that's not even counting the people who have anxiety, right? And so it's like, why we aren't talking about if you struggle with anxiety and depression or any other mood issue, do not bring this drug onto the brain. You're just wounding it even more, let alone the amount of people we're going to help just by getting this drug off of our systems.
And I love the way that you refer to alcohol as a drug, because most people say drugs and alcohol.
Yes.
And it's just so ridiculous when I hear people say that, because alcohol is a drug. In fact, there are studies that have come out going back 2012, 2020, and then as recently as 2022 that showed that alcohol is either second, third, or fourth in terms of the most damaging drug to society, behind heroin and sometimes crack cocaine and meth, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, sometimes they're interchangeable depending on which study is coming out. There was a study in 2012 out of Scotland. It was corroborated by a study out of the UK in 2020, and then a recent study in 2022, which showed that alcohol occupies either the top, second, third, or fourth place in as being the most damaging drug to society as a whole. And it also interchanges between position 1 and 4 as being the most dangerous to a person individually.
Yeah.
And yet we're walking around going drugs and alcohol. No. It's drugs including alcohol.
Yeah, and we sell, like, I've seen bottles of wine that say like 10% of this goes to breast cancer research. And I'm like, dude, it's associated with breast cancer.
Yes. There is no amount of alcohol that is good for you. Alcohol has been linked to several cancers, including breast cancer.
Mm-hmm.
It messes with your sleep. It fires off the dopamine receptors in your brain when you consume it. And then over time, because of that regularity of consumption, the dopamine receptors become dulled. And now you need to drink more of this same substance to get the same effect of the dopamine from the dopamine receptors. It causes leaky gut, acid reflux. I mean, I have hundreds
Erectile dysfunction.
erectile dysfunction. I have hundreds of men and women in their 40s, 50s, and 60s mostly who are high achievers, entrepreneurs, CEOs, executives, retirees. And, the women who start on our flagship 90-day Stop Drinking program, which the University of Washington actually studied, and I'll come back to that later.
Oh, cool.
Because I know you're based in Washington. Most of the women who come to us say that they're not present with their children. Their marriage or relationship is strained in part because of their drinking or the irritation from their drinking and their frustration. They're carrying about 20 pounds of unwanted body weight. They've lost confidence. They've got crow's feet and weathered skin, which is a result of drinking toxins, because our body's largest organ is our skin. I always say to women, if you want the greatest beauty regimen in the world, just stop drinking alcohol. It's amazing how
it's crazy how faces change.
Oh, yeah. And, and also one really important thing to note, Kelly, is that you don't need to be rock bottom, waking up in a ditch, getting a DUI, getting arrested for you to have alcohol be severely compromising your quality of life. I always say that drinking alcohol, even modestly, or let's call it socially acceptably, is like death by 1,000 cuts. You may not notice it during the week, or over weeks or maybe even months. But geez, you notice it over years and decades. And then suddenly you find yourself in your 40s, 50s, and 60s. You're a middle-aged woman, you're a middle-aged man, and you got 25 pounds of unwanted body weight. You're tired, you're irritable, you're not sleeping great, you're not as present with your kids, whether they're young kids or adult kids. Maybe you've already had a divorce, you're irritable, stressed, you're envious of other people. You start waking up in the morning going, I thought I'd be further along in life than this. And if you just removed that poison, ma'am or sir,
Right.
it's amazing the cascade of other healthy habits that open up, and your experience of life just becomes beautiful.
And you save a bunch of money. And it's
Well-
cheaper to not drink.
Well, let me tell you this. I'm not so much interested in how much you spend on drinking or what you would save from not drinking. What
Mhm.
I'm most interested in is how much money do you not generate because of the consequences of your drinking? Now,
Yeah.
let's just use a hypothesis here. Actually, I'll use an example. There was a client we had, her name is Dolce Guman, and she won't mind me referencing her name because she's done testimonials and case studies for our 90-day Stop Drinking program previously. She's an attorney in California, and she is a married mother of two young children. One of them was 4. I think one of them was 7 at the time. They might be 5 and 8 years old now. She was drinking a bottle of wine a day. She was stressed. She was anxious. She was going to sleep to try to help us to get to sleep. And then she was waking up between 3 and 4 a.m. most mornings, stressed, anxious, in a panic, unable to get back to sleep. That culminated in her generating incredible amount of marital strain and not being present with her kids. Now, she came to us, she joined our Project 90 Stop Drinking process with a bunch of other high achievers like physicians and attorneys and realtors and investors and executives and CEOs. And she stopped drinking. Now, in the 90 days that she stopped drinking with us in our process, wait for it, she generated 800 new clients. 800 new clients. 800, not 80 or 8, but 800. She did this huge mammoth deal. And she credits the alcohol-free lifestyle, as in the clarity, the focus, and the good night's sleep. She started sleeping through until 6:30 straight, not waking up in the morning. She credits that to enabling her to go out there in her business, in her law practice, and go, I got this. I'm going to generate this. I'm going to do this. I'm going to show up here. Now that I could just say anecdotally, she came to our annual event in Sedona, Arizona last year. She was tipping the bartenders $100 at a time. I'm like, that woman's got some money. So again, just coming back to this, you may only spend a few $1,000s, $5,000, $10,000 in purchasing alcohol, but think about the hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not millions of dollars, that you are leaving on the table that you're not generating because you're tired, lethargic, dragging your ass, procrastinating in your business or in your career.
Yeah. When I started, I'm like 3.5 years now, alcohol free. And when I
Congratulations.
started, thank you. When I started like reading the books and just kind of immersing myself in the culture of it, you start looking at the high performing people in this world. They don't drink. By and large, the very successful people don't drink. And you're like, okay, they're not going around talking about it, but you start paying attention. They don't have time for the bullshit of alcohol.
Being alcohol-free is an unfair advantage. If you're
Right?
if you're living life feeling like a 6 out of 10 in your health, 6
Yeah.
out of 10 in your wealth, 6 out of 10 in your love life, relationships,
Yeah.
6 out of 10 in your happiness, and then you consistently go alcohol-free, and suddenly you've got clarity, focus, energy, a good night's sleep, you're more present, you just have a better experience of life. You start living a life of appreciation instead of expectation. Now you feel like you're at an 8 or a 9 out of 10. The difference between feeling like a 6 out of 10 and an 8 or a 9 out of 10 each day, compounded over days and weeks and months, financially can literally mean hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Mm-hmm.
With your relationship with your children, it can mean the difference between having a beautiful, present, connected relationship with your children, whatever the age, whether they're young toddlers, teens, or adults. It can mean the difference between you experiencing life as a gift versus experiencing life as hard, tough, a slog. So
Yeah.
I would invite anyone uh, to really step into this idea that stopping drinking is the gift. That's the reward. That's the pleasure. That's where all the fun and the joy comes. But
Yeah.
we're mistakenly walking around believing and behaving in a manner where not drinking is the pain and the prison and deprivation, and drinking is the fun and the pleasure and reward.
Yeah, it's like the bonus points at the end of a rough life. So for this makes sense with the whole dopamine thing, because when I gave it even me, I gave it up. When I became alcohol free, I was like, music sounds better to me. Like there was more to music. And now it makes sense understanding like you're resetting your dopamine, right? So like I'm getting so much more of a reward from listening to music than I did years past.
Yeah, you're more present
Yeah.
and you're able to take more of that presence in,
Mhm.
and things just start to seem a little sweeter. On the flip side,
100%.
when we're drinking alcohol, we're numbing ourselves, right? We're procrastinating. We're kind of like zombies. And again, this is not just for, maybe your listeners are going, oh, this isn't for me. I'm not an alcoholic. My drinking is not that big a deal. I only drink 1 or 2 drinks a night. I'm inviting you to ponder the effects of those 1 or 2 drinks a night.
Mhm. Yeah, totally. Well, so back up 15 years because like the great benefit of now and me doing this and everybody is like it's trendy. Like with congratulations, James, you've made this trendy. like now is the zeitgeist. But 15 years ago, what was your story? When was your enough? And when did it finally click like I actually want to create a career helping other people doing this?
I grew up in Australia. I was a socially acceptable drinker in that I would have 2, sometimes 3 drinks a night, most nights of the week. I would drink heavier on weekends. And I didn't think that was a big deal. I mean, society was rewarding me for that. Sometimes I might get drunk and have a good time and people would laugh and go, ha, 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 ha. And I thought, cool. But most nights of the week, I was drinking half a bottle of wine, a couple beers, a vodka, something like that. And I got to age 35, 18 years later after I made my drinking debut at age, 16 or so. And I was like, this has caught up with me. I was in Austin, Texas. I was at that year's South by Southwest Festival, 2010. I went out to an industry party. I had 2 Bombay Sapphire gin and tonics, went back to my hotel 20 minutes outside of Austin, went to sleep. And when I woke up in the morning, I could taste the gin in my mouth. I looked in the mirror. I was tired. I was weathered. I had fat rolls. I was 25 pounds overweight, and I just felt blah. And blah is that 5 or 6 out of 10. There's this great book by Napoleon Hill called Outwitting the Devil, and he talks about the drift of life. We get stuck in this mediocrity and we just slowly drift into this nothingness. That's how I felt. I went next door to the hotel to an IHOP, which is an international house of pancakes, an American fast food chain. I ordered all you can eat pancakes, and then it dawned on me, what the hell am I doing in an IHOP? I looked out the window. It was a very overcast morning. There was a freeway, like strategically kind of placed outside of the window. And I just thought to myself, enough, James, like you got to make a change. And so in that moment, I committed to attempting to stop drinking alcohol for just 30 days. That was my first goal.
Okay.
And you know what? I did. I dropped 13 pounds. I slept better. My skin improved. I joined a gym. I auditioned to become a sports center anchor on ESPN. And to my utter bewilderment, they gave me the job. And I credit the clarity and focus and strategic thinking from being alcohol free for helping me get that job. And I thought, well, this is pretty good. I'll just keep going and going and going. And then I got to the next year's South by Southwest Festival. And I walked into the Luster Pearl Bar on downtown Rainy Street to order what I thought would be a 1-year celebratory beer to celebrate my 1 year alcohol free. I ordered a Budweiser. I went to put it to my mouth, and at the very last moment, I put it down and I thought, well, hang on a second. Let's think about this. In 1 year, I've got my dream job, dream career, the body that nature intended me to have. I've attracted this romantic relationship. I'm sleeping well. I look good. I feel good. I raised money for that charity. I ran a half marathon. This is pretty good. And I called the bartender over and I said, I've changed my mind. I'm not going to have it. I tipped him and I walked out, and I haven't so much as picked up a drink since. That was 15 years ago. Or rather, that 1 year anniversary was 14 years ago, but I haven't drunk since 2010. And then, 5 years later in 2015, I just had so many people asking me, how do you like have a good time without drinking, that I thought, let me create a little program around this. I started a little program called the 30-day no alcohol challenge program that's now grown over the last decade to be this organization called Alcohol Free Lifestyle. And now we help mostly high achievers, the folks I described before, women, men, mostly middle-aged, 40s, 50s, 60s, who are not alcoholics, who aren't waking up in a ditch, but who know that their drinking is holding them back and they're stuck on this stop-start vicious cycle. They stop for a while, they start again, they stop for a while, they start again. I help them to finally get off that stop-start cycle, choose an alcohol-free lifestyle, and just explode their life in so many positive ways.
It's so badass. I mean, so many people, they might need to figure out new friends or figure out how to talk to the friends if they're being pressured, or figure out, like, how do I be at a party? What do I do with an urge? Like, it's so great that they can have a place to go that's giving them tools.
Yes. I write about, sorry, let me come back. I write about tools in which women and men can use to handle social situations in my book. It's called Clear. And there's a whole chapter there which outlines what to say when someone's inviting you to have a drink, what to say if someone's pressuring you to have a drink,
Mhm.
what happens when you get interrogated, if you get interrogated at all by your social circle, how to be, how to respond, how to behave, what to say. There's a whole chapter of that in the book Clear, which is a neuroscience-based approach to help high achievers finally break free from alcohol without AA, rehab, or willpower. But a
Yep.
lot of times what I say in that chapter of the book is it doesn't matter what you say in describing why you're alcohol free. It more matters how you say it.
Mhm.
And the how is just being lighthearted and confident. Yeah, I've been alcohol free now for like 60 days. It's been interesting. I've actually lost like 7 or 8 pounds. I'm sleeping better. My husband's really happy because I'm looking good and I've got some more energy going on. I'm feeling better. I'm feeling like I'm more present with my kids. I'm actually really enjoying it. So yeah, I'll just have soda, water, ice, and a piece of lime. Thanks. And if you say it like that with this confidence, with lightheartedness, you can even make a joke at your own expense if you're like, oh, look out, I'm going to get drunk on this soda water tonight. Ha ha ha. Then people can just relax. And
Yep.
nobody really cares if you drink.
Nobody That's the big secret. Nobody cares. Like, at all. Dude, James, so I had a new experience in Sydney when I was just there. We were at the Sydney Cafe overlooking the bridge. A fantastic restaurant. Australians are drinkers. Everybody's drinking. And the waiter comes up to me and he's like, you want some wine? And I'm like, "Oh, no, thanks. I'll just have some more of the sparkling water." And he heckled me. And in America, so the two things is, number one, the drinking culture, the pressure to drink in Australia, and number two, you guys don't tip for service. Where in America, like, it's tips, so like you would never get heckled by a server. I've never been heckled by a server, but I was like, the dude gave me a hard time for not drinking in Sydney. That was a first.
I'm sorry that my compatriot gave you a hard time, Kelly, but I would submit that's very lazy behavior from that person. And unfortunately, that tends to be the norm in society, that we mock people for being alcohol free and we celebrate those who are choosing to drink alcohol. Alcohol is the only drug where we have to justify not consuming it.
That's right.
Let that sink in. That's ridiculous. And so that waiter or waitress, whoever he or she was, that was very lazy of them and that was boring of them, I would submit. And I'm sorry you had to endure that. But also, the fact that you received it, a great way to respond to that. I'm not sure how you did respond, but I'd just go, ha ha ha, that's funny. Yeah, I'm going to get drunk on the soda water that I order. Ha ha ha. And again,
I
it's
was
not.
mostly just shocked because I was like, this is a first, and like, I'm pretty solid in why I'm doing what I'm doing now. Like, heaven forbid that was somebody who was just starting and just learning, right? But I'm like, dude, I don't care what your opinion is of me at this point. But I was actually like, you know what? Just not for tonight. I just said, just not today. And he was fine with that and moved on. I'm
That
like,
waiter, waiters and waitresses are smiling assassins. They're smiling at you as they offer you their attractively packaged poison. When they come up to you and they say, oh, hello there, Kelly, I'll be your waiter or waitress for the evening. When they say, oh, can I get you a glass of wine? Can I get you a cocktail to start with? What they're essentially saying is, oh, can I get you a bad night's sleep? Can I get you 10 pounds of unwanted body fat? Hey, can I get you a glass of shame and regret? That's essentially what they're offering us. And they're
mhm,
doing it with a smile on their face.
mhm.
And also our friends and family and colleagues, they're all smiling as they're talking about alcohol, consuming alcohol, offering us alcohol. And of course, there's this connotation again that drinking equals good times. The most ridiculous thing I've seen, Kelly, is when there's a group of people out and they're about to get together for a photo, and someone says, "Let's get a photo." Yeah, yeah, yeah. And they all get together, and then someone says, "Oh, hang on a second, let me just get my drink." And they go and grab
Yes,
their
let me
drink.
grab my drink.
Yeah, as if it's this prop, as if the viewer of this photograph, in seeing you hold this glass of attractively packaged poison, is therefore going to think, the good life. Wow, that is absolutely the good life. Standing here at this sunset on this beach with these people holding a glass of attractively packaged poison. Yes, yes, yes.
I know.
It's just ridiculous. And we all do it. I've been guilty of it. I did it in the past because there's this association that alcohol equals the good life, elegance, sophistication, adventure, fun.
Yep.
BS.
Well, in understanding, this is why I love that you bring neuroscience into it, but like understanding what the brain is willing to do to keep the dopamine party going, right? And how the brain is willing to trick you and be like, the thing I've heard, I just really like it, James. I just really like it. And I'm like, yeah, the brain wants to keep the dopamine going. So that's a common one, is I just like it. The reward of it, it's just a reward. Just tastes good. It's like the brain wants to keep the party going, even though it's harmful for the brain. What would you add to that?
It creates a temporary and illusionary feeling of relaxation. But in actual fact, what it's doing is that it is pouring gas on a fire that's already started burning of stress and anxiety.
Mhm.
And so we mistakenly believe that this thing is giving us pleasure. And of course, we think that and believe that because the dopamine receptors are going off. And it gives us this temporary, illusionary feeling of like, But the effects of that now creates the cravings for more. So that shows up the next day with like irritability and stress and a bit of anxiety. And now we associate drinking the alcohol to try and relieve that, which then creates more of the stress and anxiety, which now increases our longing and our craving for it. And then these ridiculous arguments I would submit in this situation and this example of, I just like it. I just like it. Did you like it the first time you ever took a sip of alcohol? I mean, I remember when my dad gave me a sip of brandy back in the day and I was like, oh, that tastes disgusting. Did you like it the first time you tasted it? No. But you learned to like it because all of these smiling assassins everywhere are smiling. And then you started drinking it and then you associated it with pleasure. I'll tell you one thing, like seeking pleasure in life long term and all the time is a road to a very destructive life, I would submit. I suggest that the alternative is that we want a fulfilled life. We want to feel fulfilled. And fulfillment comes from doing good things, feeling great, making good choices over many weeks, months, years, and decades. But pleasure, if we're always seeking this pleasure, we get these high highs, but then we get these very low lows.
Mhm.
And I submit, why don't we aim for a life of fulfillment, not of these like heartbeats of pleasure and then pain, pleasure and pain, and pleasure and pain. How about we just go a steady, beautiful, compounding interest of fulfillment?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, to me, I'm like, what do women fear the most? Alzheimer's, dementia, breast cancer, right? And it's like alcohol is you're on your path to both of those with alcohol. What do men fear the most? I might be wrong, you can judge me, but erectile dysfunction. And like there's a study done in China where they took some moderate to heavy drinkers, had them stop for like a month. The gross majority of their erections got better. And I'm like, if that shouldn't be on the warning label, like that might help.
Yes. And just a warning, stopping drinking alcohol does make you better looking.
Right, if you needed some bonus.
I mean, it's true. I see all these ridiculous Hollywood celebrities promoting, Neutrogena moisturizers and all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, ladies, just stop drinking and
What
you
about the
will glow.
celebrities promoting tequila?
Yeah.
Not to name names, but there's
Well, I'll
big
name them for
money
you.
in that.
I'll name them for you if you like. I'm
Sure,
happy
do
to.
go for it.
So look, there's three male celebrities: Dwayne the Rock Johnson, Ryan Reynolds, George Clooney.
Mhm.
All of them have liquor brands. George
Mhm.
Clooney actually sold his tequila brand for $1 billion.
Mhm.
Ryan Reynolds I like Ryan Reynolds. He seems funny and cool, and he's very fit and healthy, and he looks like he's done a lot for charity. Same with Dwayne The Rock Johnson. The hypocrisy, though, is too much for me to reconcile because these guys, in many ways, are fantastic men because they're fit, they're healthy, they've done good things in the universe, they're charitable, but simultaneously, they're peddling poison. Make no mistake, they're peddling poison. And they're probably convincing themselves that it's okay because it's not their responsibility how much of this poison the consumer consumes.
And on the bottle, it says enjoy responsibly, which is branding created by the liquor industry.
Yes. So it's hypocrisy at the highest level, I must say. I will also say this. There's a Professor Tim Stockwell out of the University of Victoria in Canada. And 2 years ago, he published a study of 107 previously published studies about alcohol and the claim specifically that a glass of wine a day was good for your heart health. And Professor Tim Stockwell researched these 107 studies claiming a glass of wine was good for you. And then it involved 5 million participants, by the way, over 3 decades. Okay. So it wasn't just like one snapshot in time. It was like claims over 30 years that alcohol was good for the heart. His findings found that each and every one of those 107 studies, the claims were either biased or skewed. His words, not mine. Now, when you dig a little deeper and you find out who was funding those studies, in almost every case, it was either big liquor, big alcohol directly, or an association with ties to big alcohol. Now, that should be frightening for everyone as well. So, no, a glass of wine a day is not good for your heart health. That has been debunked so many times now over the years. And I would just also invite your listener to stop worshiping at the altar of alcohol. Stop trying to find ways to cling on to it.
Yeah. Right. It might cause breast cancer, but isn't it good for my heart? It may cause dementia, but isn't it good for my heart? You're like, it's insane. You probably saw at the end of 2024, the Surgeon General of America, before he lost his job, because now we have a new administration, said, "Hey, here's my write up. I think we should change the labeling on alcohol in America." I don't think it's going to go anywhere because that was like right before he left his job. Where do you think that's going to go? Because Health Canada changed in 2024 and said there's no safe amount. Do you think America will get a better warning label?
Ireland was the first country to actually start to put warning labels on alcohol. So that's being rolled out as we speak. Canada as well, I know, are in the process of that. I thought it was astounding that the American Surgeon General announced that in January of 2025, and I applauded that. I think that in 20 to 30 years, as a society, we're going to look back on alcohol with the same level of disdain we currently do cigarettes. Now, I don't think it's going to happen sooner because it's like a big ocean liner that takes a long time to kind of move direction. It's like a very slow moving ship. Having said that, there is a tidal wave happening in society right now where people are waking up to the consequences of alcohol and are now choosing alcohol-free alternatives. I don't know how long it will take, but it might take 3 to 5 years, 7 years for warning labels to get onto liquor and bottles of liquor in the US. But it's going to happen. Like, it is going to happen. It's happening. Now, there'll be delays, there'll be pushback, there'll be all these kind of things. But the tidal wave of change is too big. Like, the damn wall has been broken. This is happening. As a society,
It's happening. That's
we are,
exciting.
yeah, we're turning our back on alcohol like never before. I'd just add one thing as well. This whole mummy culture, wine
Yeah.
o'clock. Ladies, you do not need wine to be in a beautiful community of other mothers. You don't need wine to connect and to bond. You just get to connect and bond with the other mummies. This whole like, oh, wine o'clock, having a little laugh and a smile. Ladies, one drink a day is enough to compromise your sleep, which is enough to cause irritability, frustration, not present with your children. One drink a day is enough to cause some level of brain degeneration. One drink a day is enough to increase the likelihood of you experiencing breast cancer and a whole set of other breast cancers. One drink a day is enough for you to lose a little bit of self-confidence. One drink a day is enough for you to feel unhappy about your life, one drink a day is enough for you to have a dire effect on your children.
Mhm.
I mean, I don't know of any other modality on earth that is more powerful than helping someone get off drugs, including alcohol, because the children, our children, are watching us. They're
Yeah.
watching our drinking patterns. They're watching how we are. And then they grow up and then they mirror those patterns.
Yeah.
And if you are experiencing challenging times with your drinking habits and your kids, whether they're young kids or adult kids, are observing that, they're just going to mirror mummy's behavior later on in life. So
Yeah.
you have an opportunity here to change that and create generational impact in your family.
And I think, I mean, especially to women, is like the role of alcohol in dangerous sexual encounters in college is highly correlated. It's like 70 or 80% of at-risk sexual events are alcohol's on board. It's like 75% of domestic abuse issues are when alcohol's on board. Like, alcohol is dangerous to relationships. It makes people vulnerable. It makes people aggressive. And I'm like, just for this. And it's like, yeah, we're not in college anymore. And most of us aren't in domestic violence situations. But just understanding, like, this drug is nasty to society. It's nasty to relationships.
And the point I really want to impress upon folks is that, again, you don't need to be an alcoholic for it to be causing generational dire consequences. You don't need to be waking up in a ditch. You don't need to be getting a DUI. You don't need to hit the proverbial rock bottom. Like I said, it could be death by 1,000 cuts. It's enough to cause just enough marital strain for your quality of life to go downhill very quickly. It's enough just to cause enough disconnect between you and your kids. It's enough just to cause a little bit of procrastination in your career and your business. And
Yeah.
all of that cumulatively, like compound interest, can go south very quickly.
Well, the energy that you have so you can work out in the next morning, right? Like, it's all the little things. So what advice would you give somebody when they're like, hey, my spouse, like, I'm all in for this alcohol-free thing, but my spouse doesn't want to at all. And they're worried about, like, that being stressed, like them stressing the relationship because they want to go alcohol-free. How do you advise those people?
Choose your lifestyle, stick to it, celebrate it. Don't judge your husband or your spouse if they decline to participate in that lifestyle. If you get pushback from your husband or spouse or partner, just smile and say, yeah, no, it's all right. That's fine. You do you. I'm just choosing to live this alcohol-free lifestyle. Now, what I can tell you anecdotally, Kelly, because I've been helping women now in their 40s, 50s, 60s for 10 years as part of this Project 90 community, is that any resistance that a husband or a spouse or a partner has initially soon fades away. And by day 50, 60 of their partner being alcohol free, suddenly they see this gap opening up, the partner, I mean. And the partner's like, oh, I can see my partner, as in my wife, improving, being calmer, sleeping better, feeling better, behaving differently. Oh, I better level up my game so the gap doesn't get so wide. And in some cases, the gap becomes so wide that the woman has actually decided to end the marriage. That does happen. There's a chapter in my book, which is called Clear, in which it talks about the uncomfortable reality of your new clarity. And what that means is that we had a woman who went through Project 90 a couple of years ago. She got to about day 45 or 46, and she announced on a group coaching call, because we do these group coaching calls on Zoom. And she said, I've realized my marriage is over, and I'm going to sit my husband down tonight and I'm going to tell him. And we were like, whoa. So far from stopping drinking, providing sunshine and rainbows for her, it provided this uncomfortable clarity. And so she sat him down and said, our relationship is over. And she'd been feeling that way for a decade, but hadn't been doing anything about it. She'd just been procrastinating on it and numbing herself with the alcohol because the discomfort of ending the relationship was too overwhelming for her. So she let 10 years pass. That's the drift that Napoleon Hill talks about in his book, Outwitting the Devil. And then good on her, she made that choice. She subsequently got divorced. She then pivoted in her career. She went and created an oils essence business, an e-commerce business. which she loves. She's got all these happy customers. She's lost 25 pounds, more or less. At least that's what she told me when I spoke to her a few months ago. Um, I'm not sure whether she's recreated another romantic relationship, but it's probably irrelevant. She just feels better. It was the right thing to do, and I wish that it was all sunshine and rainbows. And maybe you can argue that in her case, it is sunshine and rainbows. It just took a couple of years to get to that point, right?
Yeah.
But sometimes, it's going to unearth being alcohol free is going to unearth some discomforts, some decisions that you've been really kicking the can down the road on for a long time. And now you get to tackle them.
Yeah, you have to feel like, alcohol provides a wonderful escape from having to actually deal with uncomfortable situations. And some people have to learn, maybe most people have to learn how to deal with feelings and uncomfortable things. And you don't just have and my brother talking about it, like alcohol's a great tool for things. And thinking of like the upside of what alcohol lets you be in situations that you wouldn't have otherwise been in had you had the clarity. But you have to be an adult and learn new tools. I was thinking about, the future of like, when you're like, it's changing, and thinking back to like cigarettes of like, surgeons used to smoke in operating rooms. People used to smoke on airplanes. Like we used to smoke in bars and restaurants. Right. And the fact I remember when that started like picking up to get kicked out, people were like, that's crazy. And it's like, well, now we're like, oh my God, can you imagine going to a restaurant filled with cigarette smoke? Right? It's like society does slowly change. I just think the tax revenue is going to keep status quo for a while on this drug.
Yeah, I mean, there's big money in it. Interestingly, Heineken has a 0% beer called Heineken Zero, and it equated for 11% of all Heineken sales just 2 years ago. That's extraordinary.
That's like out of the gate. Like people don't even know about that probably.
I mean, I see Heineken 0.0 ads now on the billboards at Champions League soccer games. You see it on the TV and those digital boards along the sideline of the soccer fields. Heineken Zero. I think one of the Formula One teams now may either be sponsored by Heineken Zero, or there's billboards around the track promoting Heineken Zero. I think we're going to increasingly see these 0% alternatives. I'm actually an investor in a Denver-based company called Groovy, Gruvi. They do great alcohol-free beers, alcohol-free wines, alcohol-free spritzers. I really like their products. Look, the conversation is now going to be moving into, oh, can I get you an alcohol-free drink? What do we got? What would you like? I've got this, I got that. That's going to increasingly happen. And, governments and societies all over the world are changing. And, back in the 50s, we had doctors in medical white coats smoking Camel cigarettes and in advertisements saying, I smoke Camels, the cigarette that I trust the most. And, we look back now and laugh and think that was ridiculous. We're going to look back on this year and laugh at people like The Rock and Ryan Reynolds and George Clooney and the fact that we were all drinking alcohol in bars and restaurants. We're going to laugh and just go, what were we thinking?
Yeah. Like it's so bad. And I think the time's right. Like the zeitgeist of, listen, we have the amazing privilege of living longer. Let's do it better. Let's not think frailty is inevitable. Oh, alcohol on bone health, right? And like women in osteoporosis and breaking fractures, like let alone the risk of falling. So I just think they're more in tune to be like, I'd like to be 84 and thriving. What are the steps that are necessary to get there? And I think alcohol free is a key step to that.
I think those two words that you said are the most interesting, and thriving. Because I speak to my mother all the time. My mother's name's Jill Swanwick. She lives back in Brisbane, Australia. And she goes, oh, I don't want to live a long time and have people like, looking after me and like, being frail and like, and all this. And I'm thinking, well, what about if you just live like really energetically and you're like vibrant and you're happy, and like, then you'd probably just incredibly love life, right? And like you might like want to extend your perception of when you want the end to come. But the thing is like, I mean, I would rather die at 80 and feel healthy and amazing and just die quietly in my sleep at night but be moving and going to the gym and exercising and walking and feeling good than dying at 90, having another 10 years where I'm like, oh, I'm frail and I'm weak and I've got osteoporosis and I've got Alzheimer's and I'm blah, blah, blah. I mean, that is a distinct possibility if I'm drinking alcohol regularly for years and decades.
We've normalized frailty. We've normalized chronic conditions. We've normalized feeling shitty. Like we've normalized this mediocre existence because we like forgot that an alternative is available.
And I get it because cultural conditioning.
Mhm.
We've just accepted the drift, as Napoleon Hill talks about in Outwitting the Devil. But what I've been trying to do by putting it out there in social media and with my book Clear and with this Project 90 program and trying to get together a whole lot of men and women in their middle ages now is to de-hypnotize them around alcohol. I'm not here to hypnotize you that alcohol is bad, but I'm here to de-hypnotize you that alcohol is good.
Yeah.
And if I can do that and I can rewire your mindset enough to have you choose an alcohol-free lifestyle, wow, everything's going to be great. Just coming back to the University of Washington, it would be remiss of me if I didn't mention that because I kind of teased it a little earlier.
Yeah.
In 2023, the University of Washington conducted a scientific study on our Project 90 Stop Drinking process, and the results were a 98% reduction in drinking amongst the study participants. That's extraordinary. Now, I don't think that I've got something so groundbreaking and secretive, and I've got this secret formula to help people to de-hypnotize themselves around alcohol. I think it's simply putting a group of like-minded people together who have a common goal, who want to choose a lifestyle as opposed to needing to be sober and be in recovery and go to an AA meeting. I think it's just putting people in a like-minded community with a common goal and then letting them go to work. In fact, there's a book called The Power of Habit by Charles C. Duhigg. It was a New York Times bestseller. It's been around a dozen years or so. And in that book, he says change becomes probable when you have a like-minded community, not a community, I'll come back to that in a second, but a like-minded community of folks who are trying to achieve a common goal. Now, the reason why I would submit groups like AA are ineffective for most people. In fact, the studies suggest that AA's actual success rate is less than 10%, which means that it's ineffective for 90% of people who attempt it.
Mm-hmm.
The reason I would submit that that is mostly ineffective is because it's a community. Now, if you're a 50-year-old woman, you're a parent, you're well-educated, you're articulate, and you go to an AA meeting and you're sitting next to a 19-year-old meth addict who holds up a gas station, you've got no relatability to that person. Of course, you want the best for that 19-year-old, but you can't relate to them. And so you're not inspired. You're not motivated. You're thinking to yourself, I'm in the wrong room. I shouldn't have come here. My drinking is not that bad. I'm not going to say I'm an alcoholic. I shouldn't be here. Now, of course, that's going to be a discouraging experience for you. And so what are you going to do? You're just going to keep drinking, stay in the status quo versus over here in this Project 90 experience, which is just, it's positive, it's empowerment, it's good nutrition, it's focusing on sleep, it's living a life of appreciation instead of expectation, it's having a gratitude practice each day, and it's being in a like-minded community of men and women in their 40s, 50s, and 60s who all have this common goal of choosing an alcohol-free lifestyle.
Nailed it. Absolutely nailed it. Yeah, I love it. I love the reframe. I love that I love that it's an up level. You know, and it's so accessible to everybody now with the right tools and the right book. I'm so excited that you're coming out with the book. Let people know what's the Instagram social media handle.
My Instagram is at James Swanwick. You can find me there on Instagram. We do a lot of stuff, putting out videos and content to show people how to have, at the very least, a better relationship with alcohol, if not questioning their relationship with alcohol, but lots of tips and tricks there to support you to hopefully choose an alcohol-free lifestyle.
I love your social media. I love how you call out the bullshit of the normalization of it. And because it's like, yeah, it's just like anything that helps people think, I'm kind of attracted to. so like I really like that part of the Instagram. And we'll look for the book when that comes out in April.
Yeah, the book is called Clear, a neuroscience-based approach to help high achievers finally break free from alcohol without AA rehab or willpower. Comes out April 8th. You can get details at alcoholfreelifestyle.com/clear. It's also available after April 8th, wherever online books are sold, whether that's Amazon or Barnes & Noble. And there's also an Audible audio version, which I recorded.
Did you record it?
took me 8 hours over 3 days, but I did
Oh,
it. So if you
I've done that. I've recorded a book. It makes you respect the people who use their voice for a living, that's for sure.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. If you
And
can
then
handle
where
my Australian accent for 8 hours,
I'm
then
glad they
yeah.
wanted. I'm glad they wanted an Australian accent. That's good. And then where do people go for the 90-day program?
alcoholfreelifestyle.com/project90. But if you just go to alcoholfreelifestyle.com, I'm sure you'll find your way there.
Love it. Thanks for joining us today.
Kelly, thank you very much for having me.
Absolutely.